Hello, and welcome to a preview of tomorrow's Midnight Launch News with special guest Pedram. What's a video game company past its prime to do? Well, if you're Atari, you talk up a game console you may never release. You design a hat with downward firing speakers in the bill, and you try to crowdfund the development of a new entry into one of your most recently successful franchises. But what happens when none of that works? Well, of course, you create your own cryptocurrency. Atari has announced a pair of new cryptocurrencies in their most recent and awkward attempt to remain relevant in a gaming space that has just passed them by. While details are sparse, we do know that the Atari token will be a crypto token that sees use in primarily gaming related transactions, while the Pong token will be a crypto token specifically used in Atari's brand of online casinos overseas. Upon the announcement of this new endeavor into cryptocurrency, Atari's stock price rose 60%, and it has since dropped down to its pre-announcement valuations. In other news, the Museum of Art and Digital Entertainment, or MADE, is requesting that the U.S. Copyright Office expand a DMCA exemption granting video game preservationists the ability to use emulators and other DRM circumvention tools to abandon online video games like Star Wars Galaxies, Warhammer Online, and Dark Ages of Camelot. The Museum of Art and Digital Entertainment contends that current exemptions are not enough to allow them to effectively catalog and preserve defunct online titles due to DMCA's barring of the reverse engineering of server-side code and functionality. The Entertainment Software Association, or ESA, a trade organization to which most of the top publishers in the world belong, takes issues with MADE's characterization that these would be slight modifications to an existing exemption, stating they are nothing of the sort. The proponents request permission to engage in forms of circumvention that will enable the complete recreation of a hosted video game service environment and make that video game available for play by a public audience. The ESA fears that any further expansion to the current exemptions relating to persistent online titles will result in video game preservationists, quote unquote, recreating servers for shuttered online titles, introducing more competition into an already crowded ecosystem. With the increasing popularity of retro games and consoles, publishers are now more likely than ever to be protective of their back catalog of titles. The U.S. Copyright Office has until October to render a decision. And CD Projekt Red's co-founder, Marcin Owinski, and I apologize for probably butchering that name, is taking on loot boxes. In a recent interview with PC Gamer, Owinski stated that the conversation he's talking about around loot boxes this year sounds way too nice to describe what happened last year. I would rather call it community backlash. And this time around, it wasn't just the hardcore community. There were a lot of really pissed off gamers out there, and they decided to speak up. Where we stand is quite simple, and you could see it in all of our past releases, most recently with The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt and Gwent. If you buy a full price game, you should get a big, polished piece of content, which gives you many hours of fun gameplay. Owinski went on to describe what he considers to be the difference between an expansion and a DLC, where an expansion should be a large amount of paid for meaningful content, while DLC should be smaller pieces of additional content that should be offered to gamers for free. This stance does seem relatively par for the course for CD Projekt Red, a company that is well known for its consumer-centric stances on DLC expansions and including even digital distribution as ownerships of the GOG or Good Old Games platform. It is still nice to hear that Owinski appears to be on the same page as a lot of the other gamers, and just makes me even more excited about Cyberpunk 2077, which should be coming out, oh god, hopefully soon. We'll be talking about all this and more on tomorrow's episode of Midnight Launch News.